Hello and greetings and welcome to Darkstone's Picks. Today, I'm kind of delighted to tell you that not only do we have a musician, but he's a man of many talents. He has culinary talents, and he'll tell us a little bit about that. He also has, would you believe? Of course you'd believe it because you're going to hear him do it. Musical talents. He is an incoming second vice president for the Society of American Magicians. He won a stage competition not too far back in the day at Abbott's. For those of you who are magicians watching it, you'll know what it is. For those of you who are not, that's quite a major thing to win. Trust me. Okay, listen. Without much further ado, we'll chat with him a little bit later about his talents and some of his adventures along the way. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. John Sturk.
Thank you, Anthony. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, you're going to start us out with some music, John?
Sure. I'm going to play on the Hammond organ today. I'm thinking, one of my early, not mentors, I never met him. One of my early influences in jazz was the great Duke Ellington.
Oh, wow.
And even though this song wasn't written by him, it was by far and away his theme song.
Just wow, 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 wow. Now, that would be a train with a letter, right?
That's right, Take the A Train. Written by Billy
Absolutely.
Strayhorn. The
Uh huh.
lyrics, I'm sure some of your more astute listeners know that the lyrics were actually directions on how to get into the Cotton Club, how to get to the Cotton Club in Harlem, where the Duke Ellington Orchestra was playing at the time.
Well, most of the astute folks, as you say, will know that Harlem back in the 20s was the place to be for music and jazz. And there are many wonderful movies about that, and many great people, uh, great names in the world of music and jazz, especially, played there. And as you rightly mentioned, John, the Cotton Club. If you're a young person and you have not heard of the Cotton Club, you know what? Spend a few minutes, go Google it. It's worth learning about if you're a musician of any kind. It certainly is. Uh, John, now you have, as I mentioned earlier on, an array of talents.
That's right, Anthony. I'm running out of skills to monetize.
Well, at one time you use some of those skills in busking on the street, and we'll get to that later on.
Yes.
But what I'm interested right now, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers will be interested in, is I'd love to see some of your magic. I really
Sure,
would.
sure. So I'll do this one for you. I tend to like the tricks that use the simplest props, which is why I use this one with three ordinary pieces of rope, same as you'd find in any garage, garden shed. Um, Usually, though, if I had some spectators here, I would have them examine the rope. They would see that's perfectly normal and free of guile. But it turns out there aren't a lot of tricks you can do with three different size pieces of rope. So generally what I do is apply the theory of relativity, all things being equal in the universe, and I stretch those ropes out so that they're all the same length. Please hold your applause. Oh, wait, you were. That gives us one, two, three equal pieces of rope. But I do this trick sometimes for people that have a hard time following three. So I'll put one away and just work with these two. Now I have been known to perform for the inebriated crowd from time to time, and I'm talking Wrigleyville Cubs fan drunk. That's pretty far in the bag for those of you who aren't familiar, and they have a hard time following two, so I can water the trick down and just turn two into one. Now, for those of you who were in a coma just now, I had two pieces of rope. I took this end here, put this end here, and melted this piece into the middle. A lot of people say to me at this point, they say to me, John, which is my name. Well, Mom called me Rover, but she wanted a dog. They say, John, can you do that in slow motion? And I'll say, sure, I can do it in slow motion. Watch right here. You'll actually see the ends travel from end to end. Now, if you're going to try this for yourself, which I highly recommend, it's a great party trick, you do want to be aware the ends have a tendency to fall off the rope. If this happens to you, do not panic. Simply place them away discreetly and go on like nothing has happened. Well, right about there, I'll take the ends, throw those babies back on, and it's good as new. But
Wow.
still people at this point say to me, John, which is my name. Um, they say, John, can you put the rope back in a loop without tying a knot in the ends? And I'll say, okay, I'll do it, but I want you to be aware there's no magnets. No magnets. It's actually static electricity, a little static on the sleeves, and the two ends fuse back together. Now, if you want to put rope ends back in the rope but don't have any scissors, not a problem. Simply take some spare ends, you toss those babies on, and you're good to go. But still, we'll go back to where we started. We'll take the one long piece, cut that in half with the magic scissors. And yes, they are safety scissors. See, I'm fine. Uh, that's one, that's two. Third one from the pocket. That's one, two, three equal pieces of rope. But you probably couldn't tell the illusion. This one being the small one, this one was the medium one, and this one was the large one. Well, if you weren't able to keep track, if I break the illusion like that, it's a lot easier to see.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, John. That
Thank
was
you.
superb.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you. That was many years of practice and self-denial.
Yeah, well, the practice perhaps.
I'm gonna put these away very carefully now. I do have another show coming up in October, so
Oh,
that'll,
okay.
we'll save that'll be ready.
Yeah, you take care of them. Hey, John, what you were talking about, it's just an amazing effect. I mean, I just love watching it. I don't do it, but I love it.
Thank
I
you.
think it's a great effect and done superbly, of course. You mentioned during the effect in your script about inebriated crowd in Chicago, in Chicago, which is where you are right now.
That's
Yes.
right. Yeah, I've been living in Chicago since 2007. I was born and raised in the Detroit, Michigan area, a town called Plymouth, Michigan, and went to school at Michigan State. Well, Michigan State University, but magic is mostly what I studied while I was there. And then I moved to Chicago in 2007 when I took a job with Fun Incorporated,
Hmm.
which is the makers of Royal Magic. And I moved to work in the factory here as a project coordinator and a salesman.
Right. Well, speaking of Chicago, I think at one stage, just very briefly, I just want to touch on it. You were co-founder of the Magic Lounge. Is that right?
Yeah, in 2014, I was running a small magic club by
Hmm.
invitation only out of the back of Magic Incorporated,
Hmm.
which some of your listeners may know was the shop that was owned by Jay Marshall for many years.
Hmm.
And we had another person come in who had connections with a theater that was opening, looking for more programming to fill out its week. And so that was the start of the Chicago Magic Lounge. And we had our first preview show in March of 2015 and opened for real a few weeks later.
Hmm.
And I worked there from 2015 until the end of 2018.
Oh, that's a stretch. I mean, you mentioned Jay Marshall. Some people will not know who he is. Some others would. Lefty, of course, yes.
Yes.
And at one time, he was. We have to mention that before our current dean, Mr. George Schindler, Jay was Mr. Marshall was our dean of the Society of American Magicians.
That's
If you
right.
remember.
The legend goes he was asked to be the dean, and he says, "Well, what do the dean do?" And he was told, "The dean don't do nothing." And he said, "That's the job for me."
I think that George Schindler also uses that from time to time.
Yeah.
At least I've heard him do it from there. So now we know where he got it from. Now you were kind of like moving over to your keys. Am I getting the impression you want to play something?
Well, when you mentioned Lefty, so Lefty's famous song was "If I Had My Way."
That's
And
right.
I moved to Chicago after Jay Marshall passed away, so I never got to meet the man in person. But I did get to know his family. His son Sandy now still owns Magic Incorporated today. Last summer, in the summer of 2019, the SAM had a celebration combining the centenary of our Chicago Assembly, number three,
Mhm.
which was founded in 1919, with the centenary of J. Marshall's birth.
Oh,
So
great.
Sandy performed Lefty for the first time since Jay had passed, and I got to accompany him. So I did get to sort of achieve my goal of accompanying Lefty.
Well, how cool is that? You actually
Yeah.
get to play music for Lefty. And for those who don't know, and there may be some people who don't, no reason why they
Yeah,
should.
yeah.
You
I will say you can go on YouTube and see Jay
find,
performing
yeah,
Lefty. Yeah.
Lefty was a sock puppet. He just put a sock over his. It was a ventriloquist, and he just
hmm
did it. Yeah, you're right. People should go see that.
It
And
was it was Jay's by far his most famous performance. He did it on El Sullivan some 14 or 16 times. It was a lot. And he was known all over the world as the guy that did Lefty.
yeah, just a sock puppet. I mean, just put a sock on his hand, and it was just brilliant. But like you said, people should go check it out on YouTube. Whether you like magic or ventriloquism, it doesn't matter. Go check it out because this is like world class entertainment, as you've said. He did that all over the world, all over the world. Well, I'll tell you what. Now you got that opportunity to, as you say, to play, music for Lefty.
I
So
did, yeah.
I'm just going to let you do that.
Well, I'll play another tune. Let's see. So I play, or at least, so in Illinois, our lockdown began in the middle of March, and
Uh-huh.
I also have a jazz organ trio that I perform with.
Right.
It's called the E-Line Organ Trio. So my drummer and my guitarist and I, we played weekly at a bar in Chicago called The Hyde.
Hmm.
And ever since the lockdown, we haven't been able to play, let alone meet together for practice. So I'll play one of the tunes that I love to play with the band, and that
Okay.
is an Al Green composition.
Oh yeah, that's knockoff, man. It's just really, really, really fantastic. Yeah. Well, we're still on the topic of Chicago because I know we had you as a guest on Arian Black's Magic Kitchen,
Hmm.
and we didn't really have a lot of time to, for obvious reasons, to chat with you in some detail, which we'll do today. But a good friend of ours called Scott Wells from Houston, Texas, described you as a culinary conjurer. Now, now you do a little bit of cooking and things, I know,
Yeah,
and
the cooking is kind of a relatively new thing with me, and I wouldn't by any means call myself a master at it because there's so much to learn. But about 6 months ago, a couple months before the lockdown began, I decided I was growing tired of living the takeout life, because
mhm,
I would still play 3 to 4 gigs a week at night while having a 9 to 5 day job. And when you get off a gig at 12, 1 in the morning, and there's not a lot of good options for you.
right, right,
So I decided I would finally teach myself how to cook some things, just because I didn't want to, both for financial reasons and medical reasons, wanted to eat better. So I started watching some cooking shows like Gordon Ramsay shows and some Julia Child and some other. Actually, I have a good number of cooking shows on Netflix. So I started to experiment and slowly gained confidence in the kitchen, and I can say that I can handle a meal with some degree of confidence now. Because before that, it was just being afraid of and not knowing what I was doing. So I decided
right.
to lift my own veil of ignorance.
Well, I think you raised a good point there because those of us who are musicians, magicians, performers, etc. Like you said, you know, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, whenever you finish or whatever, what's there out there to eat? I mean,
Hmm.
that, as you say, just unhealthy choices. And if you're doing that 3 or 4 times a week at 2 or 3 in the morning, uh, that's not doing you a lot of good. So I think having something that you can make yourself, keep in the fridge and put in the microwave later, it's easier, as you say, on the pocket because you're not spending that much money, and you're eating something that that you've cooked and that's healthy. So I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
it's
if I get paid $100 for the gig, and I don't want to spend $10 on a fast food meal, that's ten
yeah.
percent 10% of my money for the
Earnings,
night.
yeah, absolutely. Um, Coming back to the Chicago thing, you were saying to me that at one time, I mean, okay, I know you have played in some high-end places, but you also told me that you've played in some, how did you describe them?
Dive bars.
Dive bars. Okay, I was hoping you would say that, not
Oh yeah,
me.
I have. They
Yeah,
know. They know.
yeah.
Yeah, I have. Not long after I came to Chicago, I started to play piano for many of the improv theaters here, and Chicago is a worldwide mecca of improv comedy with the Second City. Everybody knows that. All the
Right.
stars it's produced. The I.O. Theater, formerly known as the Improv Olympic, which
Yep.
produced many, many stars. And the one I work with the most is called Comedy Sports, which is a global franchise. There's even a location in Manchester, England,
Uh-huh.
as well as several scattered across the United States. Um, and playing for some independent teams, especially when I was coming up. So I would haul my keyboard to wherever dive bar we were and play that way. And some things have changed and some things have not in that respect. Now
Okay.
now I have the Hammond with me, so I can bring that. Um, and I have probably I've invested a lot more money into my technical setup, and it struck me that I finally had the realization that I had truly become a jazz musician when I was loading thousands of dollars of musical equipment into a car that cost many more thousands of dollars to get to a gig that paid $100.
Uh-huh. Right.
That's when I knew I had really become a
Yeah,
professional
you
musician.
made it. So that was something that a lot of musicians will relate to.
I think
Packing,
magicians will as well.
well, pretty much anybody in the performing arts, unless you're a dancer or something like that. But you've got all this gear, you're loading it into other stuff, and you're taking it someplace. And it's fine if you're the Rolling Stones or a big band because you got roadies and people to do all that for you, and all you got to do is just come on and do your thing. But as most of us and many, many musicians will know, often, guess what? You're the roadie and the performer, right?
If I ever had someone just to help me like load the stuff into the venue, that would be a huge achievement on its own.
Yeah, I think that's something, that everybody in the performing arts can relate to. Where you're trekking gear and then they go, no, no, there's no elevator. And you look and there's like four flights of stairs. Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
I played. Okay, I played a gig once with a big band, a jazz big band, at the Aragon Ballroom in Chicago. The Aragon is a place where Benny Goodman played back in the swing
Wow.
era. Okay, it's an old venue, no elevators. Okay, so to get my gear from the street up to the level where the ballroom was, it had to be put onto a forklift and raised, and then someone up on the floor would roll it off the forklift. It was it was ridiculous. And thank God I wasn't playing like a genuine B3. You know, I had the digital one here, a genuine B3 and a Leslie. That's 450 pounds of gear just with those two items.
Yeah.
So, man, if I had, that's why I don't travel with the genuine B3, because I am the only roadie.
Yeah, I
At
understand.
least this guy here and all the equipment that goes with it, I can at
Mhm.
least fit into my hatchback. I didn't
Yeah.
need to buy a new van.
Well, that I think is something, pretty much everybody can relate to because if you've got like a band, you say you got your other guys with you, and maybe, somewhere down the line in the not too distant future, we can maybe hook them all up and do something together. That might be fun. But, we'll talk on that. But I'm just saying, when you got to load, cymbals and drums and other stuff and amps and things, I've seen that. And, I got pals who play in a band and I've watched this and it's like, oh my God. The worst part, would you agree, is when the gig's done and
Oh yeah.
it's a good gig. You're on a high, you're rocking, and then you gotta go, oh shit, I gotta break this all down, tote it all the way back, right?
Yep. That is the worst part. Especially when you're riding high, you just maybe want to have a raise a glass with your buddies. But nope, got to do the work first.
Yep. I know you got to load all that back in. Hey, John, you were gonna play us a little something. This might be a good time as we're talking about music. What do you think?
Sure, yeah, I could play something else. Let's see. Okay, so I'll play one that is it's from the man who really put the B3 on the map in the jazz world. That's Jimmy Smith. So I'm
Oh,
gonna play.
yeah.
I'll play a Jimmy Smith tune for you.
Before you do, let me just ask you on behalf of everybody watching, because not everybody's going to know what a B3
Oh
is.
yes,
Yeah.
of course. Okay, so the Hammond organ,
Hmm.
which is what I am playing here, it was one of the first electric organs put out onto the market in the 1920s. It was invented by a man named Lawrence Hammond, who lived in Chicago. And the what was unique about it was the sound that it made. It was then complemented with the Leslie speaker, which
Hmm.
was a spinning speaker, and that's what give you can hear the Leslie effect where it spins and you can hear it slow down. And if I turn the Leslie back on, it spins again. So it makes that kind of reverberation sound.
Hmm.
They stopped making the vintage Leslies in the 1970s. They were made with vacuum tubes and miles of electric wiring and all this stuff. It's very complicated to make, and then the market just kind of didn't support manufacturing them anymore. But we're fortunate that many of them are still around. They're not hard to find, uh, um, but parts are becoming a little bit more difficult,
All right.
and a lot of folks, and because as I mentioned, they're so heavy, a lot of folks are switching over to digital models now. So this is a digital model. It's one of the newer ones directly from the Hammond Organ Company, which still exists and still headquartered in the suburbs of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm proud to be an official artist for the Hammond Organ Company.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So it turns out one of the guys there also a big fan of magic. So
Oh, that works.
yeah, it's the worlds really collide more than I ever thought they would. But so this is called the Hammond SKX, and it's great for me because not only can I play with the Hammond sound on it, but it does piano sounds, string sounds, and I can take it with me to one of my improv shows and create a variety of soundscapes. And I can also take it to my jazz gigs and sound great. So
I was just going to say, for those of us who are not like myself, or, there's no way I'm going to be near a keyboard within 20 feet of it because I wouldn't know what to do. Um, I'm more of a percussionist. Is there a way you could maybe just demonstrate a little bit of the strings and a little bit of something else? Or is
sure,
that going to
sure.
be is it going to be technically difficult to do?
No, I can do that.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so on this particular keyboard, we've got a lot of different voices. Got your piano, your electric piano, and I can do guitar strings, accordions, and combining all those voices together when I'm working in the improv world
Mm,
makes for a bigger theatrical experience.
right.
And when I'm playing with the jazz band, with the trio, and I can still get all my Hammond sounds. And be able to enjoy all those as well. The
That
other
that mhm,
I
go
think
ahead.
one of the unique things about the Hammond organ on its own, even without the pianos and the guitars and stuff, is just the variety of sounds you can make using the drawbars. So
What's a drawbar, John?
I have 9 drawbars for each of the keys, the upper and the lower,
Mm-hmm.
and they are harmonics based off of a single tone.
Ah,
So
right.
that is sort of a straight sine wave, and then I can add harmonics to that. And so, in effect, one note actually plays 9 notes.
Ah,
And then there's more things I can add to that, like a percussion sound, which is it's a very soft little dink. If I isolate it, just that little dink, and you add it
mm-hmm.
to the beginning, and you start to fill out the sound.
Mm-hmm.
You walk the bass with your left hand, and you can't see it here, but I have some bass pedals as well that I use to thump in a
Mm-hmm.
percussive sort of way. So if I add the left hand walking bass, and I add the foot, here we go. If I do just the foot, you could hear that thunk, 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 and then you add
Right.
it all together. And then we'll slow down the Leslie. And it stops.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, people
So
kind of say,
you
yeah,
really
go ahead.
can spend hours and hours playing with all the different variations and settings and different combinations to find sounds that you want. This originally was invented. The Hammond, was
Hmm.
originally invented to be an economical replacement for the pipe organ for churches.
Hmm.
And Mr. Hammond was not crazy about the fact that it started being used in commercial music and popular music. I think people of a certain age might equate the sound with roller skating rinks.
Yes. You mentioned the name, which I'm glad you did. There is no possible way you cannot say Jimmy Smith and talk about an organ.
Yes, now Jimmy Smith is definitely a groundbreaker in the field of the way that jazz musicians use the organ. So his techniques are still studied today by
Mhm.
jazz players. Um, so the way that I described the left hand walking bass in conjunction with taps of the bass pedals, that's Jimmy. He figured that out and set the standard.
Is there a way you could do a little demo of that, maybe?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to play Back at the Chicken Shack,
Oh, okay.
which is kind of a boogaloo blues that Jimmy recorded many times.
Wonderful.
So
Oh yeah.
that one's differentiated
Oh
by
yeah.
the bass line that goes boom, 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 as opposed to a straight walking bass line.
I'm going to be totally ignorant. And the reason I'm going to be ignorant is because it's just slipped my memory entirely. Would you happen to know who did Green Onions?
Oh, Booker T.
Yeah, right. That was it. Booker T and the MCs. Yeah, it just but my memory just yeah. I mean that for me were personally that's a
Yeah.
personal thing. I mean
Yes.
I absolutely loved it, and I used to kind of like use it or parts of it in between back in the day in shows because it had that
Yeah.
something about it. I have no idea what it was, but there was
Booker
something
T
about
and
it
the
was good.
MGs
Yep,
recorded in Memphis, Tennessee. Now,
yep.
here's there's a lot of different styles of Hammond. There's a Memphis style
Mm-hmm.
where the lower rotor of the Leslie speaker is
Mm-hmm.
disconnected from spinning.
Huh.
So only the high end, the horn, has the reverberation effect. They call that the Memphis style.
Is that difficult to demonstrate right now? Would you have
Uh,
to unplug and plug things in?
I would be able to demonstrate it right now. I don't have it programmed properly, but
Oh, okay, okay. No, I'm just asking. I mean, I
yeah,
don't know. You can see how ignorant I am on these things. Yeah, no, so fine. Well, I'll tell you what. I know there's a colleague of ours called Shutagawa,
yes,
and he does a thing called the ninja rings.
hmm
Now, I believe you do something similar. I've had a lot of people rave about you doing that. Now, I wonder. I've never seen it. I've never seen you do it. I've seen you
okay.
do it, but I'm wondering, in fact, if there's a possibility that I could persuade you to do that.
Ah, twist my arm, Anthony. Oh, okay, sure, I'll do it.
Done. Consider it done.
Okay, I'll perform this one. Now, this is not ninja rings. This is not Shutagawa routine, but he's a
No,
master on his own.
I'm sorry. I was
He's
just
a master
using it.
on his own. You should definitely go check him out.
Yeah, I
But
was
this
using. Forgive me
here's
interrupting. I was
here's my
using it as
humble.
a point of reference. That's all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I wasn't
Here's my
comparing.
humble version that I did for many years, table hopping in restaurants, and even performed it on the street as a busker. So, over 2,000 years old, the ancient miracle of the Chinese linking rings. There's one, There's 2, there's 3, and there's 4. Now, usually when you do this trick, the idea is to link the rings together just like that. If you were here with me right now, Anthony, I'd hand these to you for examination. I'd say, do you see any holes in the rings?
No.
Well, one big one.
Oh, yeah, of course, yes.
Yeah, did you know that joke is over 2,000 years old? Still funny. But this one right here is the tricky one, because this one can go straight through the other rings. That's solid steel through solid steel. If you're here with me right now, I'd hand this over to you and ask you to hold it while I link the 2 together just like that. There's 2, and there's 2. Not very impressive, I know. I'm a magician. So if you put all 4 of them together, like so, into a solid steel chain. The idea at this point, of course, to take the top ring, bring that one down through the bottom of the chain, like so. Show it around, bring it back up through the top, but that's all really hard, so I never do it. Kind of redundant. Instead, I usually take this one here, give that one a tug, and you get 3 on 1. And I'll say, class, here, you pick one, and I'll pick one. And to get rings 3 and 4 apart, as slowly as I can.
Wow. And you did all that just using the same 2 hands you did with the magic and the keys.
Yeah, I should probably get in these hands insured or something.
Yep, you should do. Marlena Dietrich should insure the legs you ordered.
Lloyd's of London, I'll be calling. I'll be calling.
Yeah. John, I want to take you over to, and I must chat to you about this because this is a show that you do, and I know there's people who watch it, and that if anybody else is interested should watch it. And the Sturking Hour.
Yeah. So when the lockdown started, and I knew that I wouldn't be seeing a lot of my friends as often anymore, I wanted to find some way to connect with them. And I have a lot of talented friends in a lot of different disciplines, comedians, magicians, musicians. And I wanted to be able to just talk to them and share their stories, because they all have fascinating stories. So I hit upon the idea of having my own sort of call-in talk show via Facebook broadcast. And so I started, and I'm about 13 episodes in so far.
Oh, okay.
I thought I could do it maybe once or twice a week, and twice a week was too much. So I decided I'd settle on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Central on my personal Facebook page, which is facebook.com/John Sturk. I make the videos public, so you don't need to be my friend in order to view them. But it was
John,
just something.
Forgive me interrupting you. Could you just repeat that again, please?
Sure. Facebook.com/John Sturk. That's one word. That's my name.
Okay.
And Facebook.com/John Sturk, and you can see my videos. And I interview a number of magicians and other friends. I had a friend on a few weeks ago. We have known each other since elementary school days. And we didn't talk magic or music, but he gave me a tour of his Lego room and all his Lego creations he's made. I've talked to magician friends like Bill Cook. I've talked to improv comedy friends like Dr. Stephanie McCullough, who's a legend here in Chicago and across the improv world, and just try to feature different interesting people that I know.
And did you have an element of cooking or something in it or not?
Oh,
Not
one
really.
time, yeah, one time I did. So I learned. A few months ago, I decided I would become a master of the roast chicken.
Uh-huh.
And I studied a couple of different methods and did some experimentations. I would cook a chicken a week, and the fortunate thing was those chickens were relatively inexpensive at my local store. So I would cook one a week and make tweaks and try to perfect it. And once I felt I had really mastered it, I made a teaching video on how to roast a chicken. And yeah, it turned out pretty good. Now, like I said, I do not promote myself as a master chef or anything. I'm certainly cognizant of how much I do not know. But I once I gained some confidence in the kitchen, I started to enjoy it more.
Mhm. Well, as you know, you didn't actually cook on the show, but as I mentioned earlier, you were on another show that I host,
Yeah, we couldn't figure out a way to get cooking, organ, and magic all in the
Magic,
same.
all in the same show. No,
So
that would
I
have been
tried.
too much.
Yeah, Arian did the cooking, and I did some magic and organ. So
That's right. Now you were wonderful on that show. We have the clip of that, and if I'm not mistaken, I think I already sent it to you. If I haven't, I'll take care
you
of that.
have, you have.
I have sent it to you. I figured I did. Yeah. Uh, yes, that was a lot of fun. Arian Black's Magic Kitchen. Like you said, it was a little bit of too much. You're very talented, but cameraman, lighting technician, music, magic, and cooking. One of them had to go.
Yeah, exactly. It's important for a man to know his limits.
Yes.
For the first few weeks of the Magic Lounge, when we opened in our new building, I was the host of the show, music director. I would do some magic at the tables, play the organ, run the lights and the sound. And let's just say that was an experience that taught me to know my own limits.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Yeah, I made that mistake twice, appearing and producing and directing shows. After that, twice was enough. It took me that long. I'm that dumb, to do it twice. And after that, I said, no, that's it. If I'm producing and directing a show, I'm not going to be in it. But that's a story all on its own. But it applies equally to anyone in the performing arts, and including musicians, because if you're doing something and taking care of one end of it, to try and come out there on stage and then drum or pick up a bass guitar or whatever it is, or a trumpet or something, it's very, very difficult. And people, I think, out in the audience don't quite get that. If you are a musician and you're there, fine, it's hard enough, as you say, putting something on a forklift truck and hanging it up a wall, yay high. And then you're going to have to deal with all of that and everybody else's emotions and problems and things in the green room where people are going, yeah, well, I wanted sparkling water and that's still water and that's the wrong brand of something. And oh, I can't eat that because it's not gluten free. Fine, you can handle all that as a director, producer, or stagehand, whatever. But trying to perform after that, your brain is mush, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this is just no way you can go out there and perform. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think probably this be a good chance because I love to hear you play, man. I mean, I think you just got like just go ahead and play something.
Play something else? Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
sure.
I just love it. Wow.
A little Stevie.
Now, this is for everybody watching. If you can guess the name of that tune, you need to get in touch with John, and he will send you a free ticket. It's not worth anything. It's no good for anything. It's just a free ticket. It's just
That's
free.
right. It's
Correct?
just free.
Yeah. Yeah. Preferably you write your answer on a.
Back of a $5 bill?
No, I was going to say Andrew Jackson. But hey, you know what? You're in the cheap seats. You won $5. Okay, well,
That's
fine.
probably why I'm still working $100 gigs.
Well, yeah, yeah, well, there you go. You know, no, man. I guess if you're gonna do it right, do it right. Andrew Jackson, at least. Come on. Well, John, would it be too much for me? I mean, I just love what you do. You just kind of switch between the two, and you have these wonderful anecdotes and stories, and just as a magician, you're kind of a thrill to watch, and as a musician, I'm kind of going, "Wow, we got to book this guy." You know, um, you up for doing us a little bit more magic? Would that be
Yeah,
okay?
sure. Sure, sure.
Oh, great! Thank
I
you.
think a lot of people are discovering their quarantine hobbies. People getting into different types of crafts, cooking. I hear there's an explosion. Baking is exploded in popularity in the U.S. But here's another one of the several uh, quarantine hobbies that I've picked up. For It's called origami, and I'm sure you're
Oh,
familiar with the
yes,
Japanese
indeed,
art of paper folding.
indeed.
But few people realize that if you do origami with money, it can be tricky. So what I have here is actually my tricky origami sample.
Hmm.
Inside is genuine U.S. legal tender. There we go. And observe now the precision origami folds. There's one, there's two, there's three, and there's four. Now you always unfold the same way that you fold. So it's four, three, two, and one. And behold, the miracle.
Ha.
It's upside down
Yeah,
because it was
right.
like this.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I sense a sincere lack of awe in your voice, Anthony.
No,
You don't understand.
there was a little bit of war.
You don't understand. This is an incredibly dangerous trick to perform. No, very dangerous. In fact, so dangerous, it actually comes with a warning on the back of the box. Now, if you
Oh,
can't read it, it says, warning, fold and unfold only as an enclosed sample. Only as an enclosed sample. Because if you don't, you actually run the risk of turning the bill inside out. Have you ever seen an inside out bill, Anthony?
no, I have not.
I'm sorry to say, it looks a little something like this. And of course,
Delight.
if I try to go pay with this at my local convenience store, 7-Eleven, 7-Elevens in Chicago are open because Slurpees are essential. They won't take this, but I can fix it. Same way, it's a one, two, three, four, and four, three, two, and one.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, sir. Yeah, wonderful, 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 amazing. Yes. So people, if we're watching, yeah, now I got that. Yeah, the magicians will get that. Yeah, but
uh,
we won't,
my
we
point
won't.
is, my point is, I didn't have one.
No, oh, I know. No, we got lay people watching this show, so the magicians will get it. The rest of them, they don't need to get it. It doesn't matter. He was just going thumbs up. Look how
Yeah,
great I
yeah,
am.
that's
He
a
was
good trick,
thumbs up. Yeah, that
right?
was good. That was good. Yeah, he was going thumbs up, and he's good. He's good. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're coming to that kind of time to wrap up, as it were, John. Short, sharp, and wonderful, which is what you did. Yes, in many areas, and I dare say you have many stories and anecdotes, etc. So we've got about 10 minutes of airtime left. So I'm just wondering if you could just maybe say a few words or play some music and say a few words and play some more music. There's no need for me to talk. There's no need for me to talk. I'm just loving listening to you play.
Well, I'll tell a quick story. So it was very hard actually to find someone to teach me how to play the Hammond organ. I played the piano for many, many years. I started playing the piano when I was in the third grade. I did not study music at the university level, so I don't have a degree in it. So it's all mostly private lessons. And I found out there was, I got the names of three teachers, and two of them were unavailable and recommended the third. So that guy's name is Chris Foreman, and he's a legendary Chicago magician as an organist. He's been playing for many years. He plays twice a week or at the famous Green Mill Jazz Club in Chicago, and he was also born blind. So he played a Friday night happy hour set for 3 hours every Friday, and I would head up to the Green Mill after work, after I got off work at my day job down in the Chicago Loop in the downtown area. And after a couple weeks, I finally got the courage to approach him and ask if he would do lessons, and he said yes. And at the time, I didn't own a Hammond. So my first lesson was at the organ at the Green Mill behind the bar. And it was very special to touch an organ for the first time and to have it be at a place as famous as the Green Mill.
Wow.
And I've been studying now with Chris for 4.5 years. And to me, it's important to have a coach or a teacher of some kind.
Or a mentor in this
Exactly. You know, whether it's magic or music, the way I look at it,
or folding paper, the
or
Japanese
even even a tutor there. The way I look at it, the greatest athletes in the world, the Olympians, still have coaches, even though they're the greatest in the world.
Yes.
Who am I to think that I don't need one? If Michael Phelps, the great swimmer, has a coach, why wouldn't I need one? Clearly I do. So that's why I really value having a teacher like Chris, or I have many mentors and peers in magic that we give each other feedback. So I would say, you're never too good to skip having a teacher.
Well, you always learn. The great Yehudi Menuhin used to be very upset if he couldn't rehearse at least twice a day. Never mind once, just twice. And, this was when he was in his 70s. I mean, for God, you didn't come any better than that. And he would always take tips. Well, we're coming to that wonderful time now where we've had a delightful time. I have, for sure. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I just want to say a big thank you to Crow for twiddling all the knobs at the other end. Many, many thanks to you, John, for making the time to come on and do this. I've had a lot of fun. I hope you've had too. You've been extremely entertaining and just great. What can I say?
Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's a great honor and a great pleasure. And I would just ask you to kindly just play us out. And the clock is telling me we have 5 minutes to do that. So make it 2 tunes or one big one. I've done my thank yous, and I want to say thank you to everybody. So we'll just let you play us out. Wow, thank you, John. That was great.